I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending April the 15th, brought to you in part by the American Simmental Association, which is the founding partner of International Genetic Solutions, which represents 12 breed associations and has the largest pool of beef genetic evaluation information in the world, with over 16 million head in the pool. Check it out at simmental.org. You know, if you look at these futures at their word and look out front, it does not look very pretty coming up. Some people choose to just look at the front month and kind of see which way they're going or not, and they really don't believe that the crystal ball lies in the futures. But the heck of it is, that's where everybody's risk management is, and that's really what's going to happen unless we see a major turnaround in this thing. On Friday, your live cattle on the June contract was up 42 cents, bolstered by some hope of a little better fat cattle trade as they were waiting for it on Friday there. But ending the week at 122.17. If you look at your August live cattle all the way through February of next year, it's right around 117. So that doesn't bode very well for getting a big price for your feeder cattle that are going to fall into that area. But your June live cattle was down $1.85 for the week. Feeder cattle on the May contract was up 62 cents on Friday, ending the week at 150.55 and down 229 for the week. CME cash feeder cattle index ended the week at 156.57, which really is not the end of the week. It doesn't include Friday's sales, but that's the last one that came out there. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central is at 152.11 and has been backing up a lot faster, and that includes all of Friday's sales there, which were also lower. Your fat cattle trade that mostly happened on Friday afternoon there had Texas and Kansas, your Southern Plains feed yards, selling at 134. Basically, that's steady with the bulk of last week's trade. Now, we did see some higher and lower quotes last week, or the week before last actually now. But 134 was really steady with the bulk of the trade last week. In the Northern Plains, mostly in Nebraska, you saw your dress sales ranging from 214 to 216, mostly 214 to 215, which was steady to $1 lower. All this happening while boxed beef just jumped leaps and bounds last week. From one end of the week to the other, gained nearly $10. If you look at your average trade on your weekly averages there that came out Friday, it showed that for the week the sales on choice were $221.51 to end the week. That was $5.30 higher on the average sales. And select ended the week at $211.96, which was up $5.18. But just big gains in your boxed beef. We thought that they had bottomed out and were about to see some big gains as getting into some nice weather, and they are. Finally, some of these retailers are starting to feature some beef in some of these ads and getting ready for Mother's Day and some big grilling holidays coming up this late spring and early summer. But these packers are just making money hand over fist. They really haven't lost any money to speak of since the beginning of the calendar year. Normally that first quarter is kind of a downer for them, but they are so shrewd, and they just completely out-trade the feedlots, and they've just been able to get cattle bought right, and they also are good on their meat sales too, and have been making money. Now we want the packers to make money. They've got to make money if they're going to be able to keep paying some prices that are going to hold this fat cattle deal up at a decent level. But man, wouldn't the feedlots love to go just day after day and quarter after quarter making money all the time. It's rare that you ever really can make consistent money feeding cattle, but evidently, of course, there's only 4 folks that get to enjoy that, is the big packers, and they've been making money hand over fist all year long so far. Slaughter's at a decent level, not quite as big as a lot of people thought it might get this last week. For the week, slaughter was 548,000, which was 13,000 bigger than the previous week and 11,000 bigger than the same week a year ago. But Expectations were a little better than 550, which didn't quite meet that. They're looking for another big kill this week, and we'll see whether or not that happens. Your cash feeder cattle as a whole for the week ended from weaker to $4 lower. Now your southeastern calves were 4 to 7 lower, and maybe more than that in spots, but definitely a lower trend on all your cash feeder cattle sales. And if you look ahead, we're just about to dip into some sharply lower prices. You know, you're talking to some of these guys. I talked to some cattle buyers that were haggling on some cattle that are going to come off summer grass in the major grazing regions there midsummer, some of those double stock yearlings that are coming off, and they're expecting these cattle to gain good, and they've got them weighing a little heavier than what would normally come off 8, but some 9-weight yearling steers coming off the Osage there on a basis trade, which is either way of the board, and they're dealing off the August board. And normally you see a few dollars back, you know, $2 to $5 back of the August board, or whatever you're talking about when you're doing a basis trade. But hearing of big strings of cattle, you know, coming off grass in mid-July there, and they're haggling on them from 10 to 20 bucks back of the August board, which is right around 150, 151. Now that's getting weighed in the lower 130s for some yearling steers off grass. Now, if those cattle have been coming out of a growing yard or some kind of a deal where they'd been heavily fed supplementally, but grass yearling steers, even though they're weighing 9 or to slide at 9, that is a ton back of there. And the heck of it is, nobody really wants them for that. Everybody's expecting this cash feeder cattle market to be a ton lower this fall. We've got heavier supplies of calves. That's really the first time we're going to see any increase in supplies of cattle, and it's the first time we've seen it for 12 or 15 years now. And we're going to have bigger strings of calves coming this fall. We're not sure if our cash market can withstand that or not. We've been having enough hard time. Late last year, for example, there we saw that wreck that nobody saw come on tight supplies, some of the tightest supplies we've had historically ever. And now we've got heavier supplies of calves coming this fall, and these late summer and fall cattle coming off grass are gonna take the brunt of that. And if it's just what the board indicates, it's going to be terrible. If it's any worse than that, it's going to be a horrendous wreck. But protect yourself. Don't stand there and watch it happen to you. Some of you smaller guys that's just got some cattle turned out and maybe just a load here or there. If you look at some of these insurance companies that deal in agriculture products, they can lock you in a price, which they'll just go to the board and take a short position, but they'll do it in bigger lumps because they'll take all their customers together. But if you don't feel comfortable getting a broker and doing all that, seek some kind of an insurance policy, but protect yourself because it's going to be bad late this summer and this fall unless a huge turnaround happens, which you don't see happening. Now we are seeing a break from the weather. It's horribly dry, and they're finishing up planting already with corn because they haven't had one day of bad weather or rain or anything to deal with. The only holdup they really had was spreading their fertilizer on windy days, but there's been no moisture to speak of in the corn belt. They are going to get some of this rain from this huge storm that started out with snow in the Rockies and out west there and come across and just soaked western Kansas and some places. Central Oklahoma's getting flooded. The East Texas and North Texas areas there, all around Dallas, are getting flooded again. That's happened about the 3rd or 4th time in the last several months for them. But the heck of it is there's not big pools of cattle right in those areas, and there's not hardly any corn. But we are expecting to see some decent rain, nothing like that, but at least some decent moisture in the corn belt. But still, you've got a lot of these climatologists that are calling for drought conditions in the corn belt, and if that should happen coupled with that the increase in supplies of cattle coming this fall, it could be a catastrophic type of wreck. But keep your head up and look ahead and see what's coming and protect yourself. Individual quote coming out of Cattle Market Central there in South Coffeyville, Oklahoma, on Friday at 4:30 in the afternoon. They had a load of steers weighed 800 pounds at 152 1/4. If you can sell some lake yearlings off grass for that kind of money, I would take it in a heartbeat. But from my home office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you on Wednesday.